Cool. Hey guys, my name is Yoshi Sudarso, and I'm an actor.
So, you're an actor.
I am an actor.
What got you interested in acting and stunt?
I first kind of got the idea of wanting to enter the entertainment industry when I was in college. There was no sign of it at all before. I didn't think that would be even a possible career path, just because I grew up, I was an immigrant from Indonesia, so my parents were very, they wanted me to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it was. So I never saw entertainment as an option. But I knew I enjoyed performing. So it was funny, a friend of mine brought me to a theater production and was like, hey, we need somebody to do some flips for this production. Would you be down? And that's actually kind of how it started. I did a flip for it, and then they made me sing and dance. I'm not a singer or a dancer, but it was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I realized that that's what I wanted to do. And so when I was 21, 22, I just decided to go full on into the entertainment industry, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just decided I'll do it all. I tried modeling, I tried acting, I tried doing stunts, and I've kind of found my niche now,
Were you trained in martial arts?
I wasn't. I was not trained in martial arts. My parents wouldn't allow me to do martial arts as a kid because my dad used to do martial arts, and he used to get into a lot of fights. So my mom was very against martial arts, or rather me taking martial arts. So I just watched a lot of TV shows that had martial arts, Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Mortal Kombat, which was, my parents were not happy with me playing. But stuff like that, and I kind of just learned the movements from there, watching a lot of Jackie Chan shows. I watched a lot of Bruce Lee movies, and my parents loved those movies, so I got to watch it, and I got to really like figure out my own way of I guess martial arts, but not really. And then when I got into right out of high school, I met a lot of people who were in the industry who did that kind of stuff, and they said, you have an affinity for it, so why don't you come train with us? And so all my martial arts is one, learned, I guess, self-taught from YouTube, friends, whatever, and it's also more screen, or rather screen fighting or cinema based. So, I'm not going to be able to beat up the guy on the street, but I can sure make myself look like I can on camera.
Because you're really fluid, and it just seems
Thank
like
you.
you do know your martial arts, and you're actually really agile, doing
Yeah.
flips and flying, so you're
I love learning, and I'm a kinesthetic learner. I love learning new physical, I guess, feats. So whenever there's a new, sort of move or whatever it is, I try to learn it, and I get a little bit obsessed with it. And for martial arts, I find different people that teach different martial arts, and I kind of delve myself into it a little bit. And so I don't have a belt on like any martial arts thing. I'm a white belt and everything, but I learn from so many different people. And, I've been learning jiu-jitsu, judo. So I consider myself a martial artist, but I'm not a martial artist in the formal and traditional sense.
so not in competition sense, but
No, correct.
so how does your parents feel about it now compared to what they did in the beginning when you first told them?
Right. So they weren't happy at first, rightfully so. And the fact that I brought my brother into it, they were not happy with that. But they grew to, I guess, come to terms with it. And now they're rather happy with it, because I think they weren't sure. In their generation, the only way to make money to survive was to go to school, get a job, have a career, and that was how your life was. That's the only way to do it. But that wasn't the case in our generation, and as soon as they realized that and learned that he can take care of himself, he's not going to go homeless, they were happy, and they were happy for me. They saw how much fun I was having, and they just didn't want me to get hurt, you know, and so I think, you know, definitely out of love, everything that, you know, the not the I don't want to say the anger that they felt, but the hesitance that they felt towards my career decision. I think it was out of love.
So I know you spoke about the challenges that you faced earlier because of your skin tone, right? And how they start typecasting you, and it's not what you wanted, right? And so over the last 5 years, things have started to change, obviously. And what kind of opportunities are you starting to see now, even from your first day?
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is something that I was just talking to somebody about. Was I don't have a very commercial look. I mean, aside the blonde hair and everything, but I don't have a very commercial look, and I don't really book that kind of stuff. Especially when I first started, I didn't book any commercials or anything. And I think 4 years ago, I booked my first commercial for the Chinese market, and it was really cool. And I got to play, you know, the hero guy, and I got to fight a bunch of bad guys in a Toyota commercial. It was a lot of fun, and to be able to portray that character, it was cool. And I don't think I would have had that opportunity had it been 10 years ago, right? And that's the thing, is like we have to think about the ones that came before, and who made a path for us, and who had to deal with all of these discriminations before for many, many, many years. You know, I felt it for a few years, and then, I mean, there's still, you know, bits and pieces here and there, but it's gotten so much better. And you know, the fact that I'm even here talking to you with, you know, I guess a career behind me already, that says something. That says that, you know, the times are already changing.
That's true. And you also did Buffalo Boys
I did,
from
yeah.
Indonesia, and actually that came over to the U.S.
Correct.
into the mainstream. So, and starting to see that international gap getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I read somewhere that you chose to do the Buffalo Boys instead of another show. Was that true?
Yes. So I was working, I mean, even after I did Power Rangers, you know, I went back into doing stunts because that was what I knew. It was easier to work. You know, there was more money in it. I wouldn't say more money. It's just easier to work because you're not having to audition for everything, you know? Like, your face doesn't really matter all that much. Whereas in acting, you have to audition, you have to do this, you know, you're being seen, you're scrutinized under these microscopic lenses, you know, like everybody's looking at you in different ways. And so it's harder to get a job as an actor, right? So I was doing stunts for a while, even after Power Rangers. And then I was working on a movie that was going to have a very long run, and it was good money, obviously, and it was fun. It was a big project. I had been working on it for like 3 to 4 weeks at this point, and you know, I was like, oh, they're bringing me back every week, and it was kind of cool, you know. I got to know everybody on there. It was a fun job. I loved it a lot. And then I got this Buffalo Boys call, and you know, basically the director was like, hey, like, I really like you. You know, we did a Skype session. He was like, I want you next week in Indonesia to start prepping for this movie. We're shooting in a month. I was like, wow, okay, great. Like, you want me to play the lead? He's like, yeah, I want you to play the lead. Like, you know, it was a huge opportunity, and you know, there wasn't all that much money in it, you know, but I wasn't thinking about that, you know. And I went back and I told these guys, hey, I'm going to be gone for 3 months, and I'll come back. And they said, unfortunately, if you leave, we have to give up your spot on the team, and it has to go to someone else because we can't lose you for 3 months. I understood, obviously, but without hesitating, I said okay. So that's when I knew. I was like, I want to be an actor. You know, I wasn't sure at the time. You know, even after Power Rangers, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be an actor. I knew stunts. I understood stunts. It was easy for me. You know, it was familiar, and it was me getting that job. It took me getting that job to realize what it is that I truly wanted, and that was like that little push off the ledge, like, okay, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to pursue acting. So I think Buffalo Boys was a lot of things for me. You know, it was my first leading a feature. It was my first project going back to my home country. And For 20 years, I didn't speak the language. So for 20 years, I didn't speak Indonesian at all. I mean, little bits in here and there with my parents, but I heard it, you know, I understood it, but I'd never used it. And it was crazy because the character was exactly that. He was born in Indonesia, moves to America, grows up American, all American, and then has to go back to Indonesia and has to fight for his home country. And it felt like there was a lot of parallels for me, and it was basically all the signs in the world pointing for me to go do Buffalo Boys. And I had a lot of fun on it, and I think the best part about the movie was that I got to go back to my country and relearn my language. I, I didn't realize that my mouth wasn't adept in using the language. I tried to speak with people, you know, and I realized I was like, wow, I don't know any of these words. And it sounded weird. I sounded like a foreigner, you know, and it was so weird. And that's when you realize, like, you don't belong in America, but you don't belong in Asia, you know, and you have that little existential crisis of like, where do you belong? And that's when I realized, like, we're the bridge between the two, right? It doesn't say we're nothing. We're Asian American, so we're both, you know, instead of seeing us as neither. So I think that was the biggest part that I got out of doing Buffalo Boys.